let's get to the first voicemail question of the Sound Off era.
There always seems to be a team that gets the groupthink overvalue every year. Who do you think that is this year? And why is it Washington? Thanks, Jason.
I like that last drop you give it. Why is it Washington?
It really is Washington. Thank you so much, Jason, for the call. That was funny. You made people laugh on the first one ever. There does seem to be certain darling teams every single year where people just automatically kind of hitch their wagon to. I mean, I think there were a few people in the on the athletic staff, maybe at least one, or maybe a few, who picked Washington to make the playoff this year. And I know Michael Penix is there. And I know that Kalen DeBoer is a coach that's won a lot of games during his career, but like, are we going that far? And also too, there's a few others that I want to put out there. We can talk about Washington first, but Texas Tech, everybody thinks Texas Tech is going to be really good, and they might be really good. But my experience, whenever you go through this and say, hey, this team that isn't usually very good is going to be awesome. That's not like they're supposed to do it the way TCU did it. They're not supposed to be expected to do it. Sam, I have a lot of respect for Joey McGuire. I love their staff. I love what they're doing.
Doesn't sound like you do, Ari.
No. I just like winning the Big 12 and being much improved and on the right track are very different things. So that's another one. Florida State is another one where everybody is like, okay, they're gonna make the playoff this year. And listen, I'm the only person on the athletic staff who picked Texas too, but at least they have the talent composite to back them up. But Washington does seem to be the main culprit here. Let's start with you, Dave. We'll start with your opinion of Washington, and then we'll flip over to Sam, and he can strangle me over my Texas Tech comment.
So I'm not going to say that Washington will make the playoff. I don't think that they will. But if you're talking about them in the Pac-12 race, when we talk about this a little bit, on Saturday, Ari, I just think USC is gonna stumble, and somebody's got to be there to pick up the pieces. And if you're asking me who the next most likely team is, I like a 10-2, a 9-3 Washington to be holding up the trophy at the end of the year. I actually like that. USC, I just think this is going to be a flawed situation. I think there's going to be frustration. I have to wonder as well, Ari, like in the locker room, anytime you have these teams where you have this all-world offense and this defense, that's clearly the reason why they're struggling. Everybody's going to play nice publicly, but when the doors are closed and locked and the microphones are turned off, I have to wonder about those dynamics as well. You've seen and heard stories about that too. So, can Washington win fewer than 9 games this year? I mean, I guess it's possible, but I'll be surprised. So listen, if you're going to talk about them as a playoff team, I don't think so. But as a Pac-12 contender, I see it.
I just don't know who's going to win the Pac-12.
I don't either.
Because all the games that are big seem bunched together for everybody on the back half of the schedule. So like we're going to maybe get a nice little viewpoint of who's the favorite once we get through half the season. But I just saw USC play on Saturday night, and I thought I was watching reruns of the season of the defense from hell a year ago. And I'm looking at Washington's schedule right now. Boise State, supposed to be pretty good this year. I think that's kind of a tricky opener. You go on the road to East Lansing, Michigan State. Maybe they stink, but this is the way it works. And then you have Oregon in the middle of your season. Then you finish off with 3 consecutive games at USC, home at Utah, then at Oregon State, ending the year off with Washington State. So that doesn't seem like a breakout schedule to me. So if you think that Washington's defense is going to be good, I'm willing to listen to whatever argument that you have for that. But like when you think about groupthink and all basically just attaching your ship to that bandwagon, I don't know that there's been a lot of people on this podcast that really think that, right? So I hopefully we're a little bit different. I think it'll be fun to watch Penix as a rocket of an arm. And I think really when he hits that pass perfectly, he's got about the most beautiful ball that you could actually picture in the sport. I don't know if I'm buying all that hype. Okay, Sam, did I offend you with my Texas Tech stuff?
You're gonna blow your mind. Not at all. I'm actually in full agreement with you, Ari. I am high on Tech, but I do think we have gotten a little carried away. Apologies to Joey McGuire. I do think and I apologize to you, Ubben, because I think you picked them when we did our Big 12 preview. You got them
win the league.
Yeah,
it's not fair for them.
Could I see them sneaking into the Big 12 title game? Yes. Am I picking them to do it? No. I think Texas and Kansas State are the teams that are going to get in there. I think they're still another year away from being a true Big 12 title contender, because I do think the program is moving in that direction. But yeah, I do think we are in the race of college football media to find the next TCU or to find the next sexy program that's going to rise up out of nowhere, so to speak. A lot of people have jumped on Texas Tech, and I get it. Lots of production returning, veteran quarterback returning, almost the entire coaching staff returning. You got a head coach that you get the right vibes off of. The culture seems to be right. So I get it, but the Big 12 is really tough, and it's a slog to get through from week 1 to all the way to the end of the season. So I'm in agreement that I think we are overvaluing Tech to a certain degree, and there's so many, I think, people trying to pick them as a team that now I think we've probably talked about them a little bit too much at this point.
Now it feels like if they don't win the Big 12, it's a disappointment. It's like,
I know. I think we're setting Joey up for failure here.
This is still the same team that they have not won 9 games since they fired Mike Leach after he won 9 games. So I think if you can get to that 9-10 win mark, and we'll see what happens in the Big 12 standings. I'm not, we'll see. If they're, will 10-2 get you?
Yeah, it's like Texas is number 1, and then everybody else after, like, we know who's going to be first.
So Ari, we've talked a lot about Texas and Bama on this pod, but like I get the Texas talent issues, but or the talent case. But Ari, like the fact that every team in the Big 12 has Texas circled on their schedule.
You say this every time.
Well, I know, but are you really comfortable with that they can hold up against this? Because I know you're on an island with the Texas play. Well, not really on an island. It's you and Dez and some other people, but generally,
me and Dez is me being on an island. Let's be honest.
Okay, fair enough. But
that's not the life raft I'm looking for here.
they're like heavy Big 12 favorites. Like most people are picking Big 12, and I just think people that they're going to be ready to show up to play, and that there's not going to be an intensity gap between them and a handful of teams that got talent and skill and want to come and punch you in the face to start the season, to start the game. I just think there's going to be some games where they're down 10-0, 5 minutes in. And
if you don't think that I'm nervous about where I'm at with this thing, I haven't effectively, I portray confidence in my opinions, but I'm very well. People are like, don't you think they could lose to teams that you don't know? Yes, I watch it happen every year. Of course, I know that can happen.
Real. It's real most years. It's doubly real this year.
Yeah, and it's I think it's a good segue because we're talking about Tech, and I believe that Texas plays on the road they're in Austin, the final game of the year, and that's supposed to be
Black Friday, I believe.
One of the biggest games in Texas Tech maybe history, right? They're already circling that out, and especially if there's a Big 12 championship game berth on the line of that game, I'm going to go there and watch it as a fan, maybe. Yeah. So that to me is a big deal. But yes, I'm fully aware of how it could go wrong for Texas. I've seen it go wrong that way 800 times, and I know the thing to me though is that I watched teams and I covered a team for 10 years where every single time they played another team, it was the other team's Super Bowl. So this isn't a revelatory concept to me. But when you are much better than them, it doesn't freaking matter. So if they're going to make the playoff, that's me having blind faith that they could potentially flip the switch and turn into the team that they have the talent to be. If they're actually going to be shocked by a 10-point deficit to Iowa State on the road because Iowa State's amped up to play the team that's leaving they're not good. They're not going to not make the playoff because of that factor. They're just not going to be good enough. So if they're good enough, that won't be a problem. And if they're not good enough, it will be. And we'll find out here shortly if that's the case.